Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining. I wanted to pull up another chart that kind of caught my attention this week, and it was the Bitcoin hash rate is going absolutely parabolic in the middle of a bear market. So Bitcoin's down 80%, but hash rate's going absolutely parabolic. So this is kind of, we're talking about the geopolitics of, Russia, the yuan, maybe the possibility of them, backing their currency by gold. How do you see Bitcoin playing into this bigger picture here? Because I
Oh,
just think it's
I love Bitcoin in this scenario. The Bitcoin hash rate going higher here is telling you, I'll actually be honest with you, I don't even know what it's telling you at this point. It's telling you, one, that there's still plenty of profit in Bitcoin mining. Two, it's telling you that what I find fascinating is that there's no volatility in Bitcoin. People are trying to get as many Bitcoin as possible. Obviously, the hash rate's going up. People are competing for the hash rate. I'm just kind of vamping at this point. Looking at Bitcoin and pricing right now, I see the lack of volatility in Bitcoin to be very, very interesting. That just means there's no liquidity out there. Apparently, in recent weeks, Bitcoin volatility has now dropped below S&P volatility on a historic basis, as measured by the VIX. But I don't generally, in my technical analysis, I only look at volatility on an issue by issue basis. So I look at Bitcoin's internal volatility. I look at the S&P's internal volatility, goals. They all have different volatility. Just by looking at week to week, for example, the range of prices, and then looking at that relative to what the range was yesterday. Let's just say for Bitcoin, the average weekly range from low to high is $5,000 a week over the course of the last 2 years, 120 weeks. Just let's aggregate some data, right? And that's all aggregating all the data from after Bitcoin broke out above the 10, 11,000 level in November of 2020, right? Because then that captures all of that data. And if you do that and you run it, you just go and grab the data and get a median of the range. So just subtract high from low from high, get the range for the week, and that's $5,000. And then if you look at recent data, Bitcoin's volatility is less than $1,000 relative to Bitcoin's own historic volatility. This is unbelievably low volatility. This is negative 5 sigma volatility for Bitcoin. That's what's interesting. In oil, for example, since the beginning of the war, oil's volatility has been at least twice as high as it was even after the Corona apocalypse. What does that tell you? It tells you that people are volatility washing in the futures market to try and get rid of as much volume in the futures market so they have more control over the futures market so that they can mutz with the price of oil. The fact that they can't get any volatility in Bitcoin tells you there's no Bitcoins to volatility wash because they can't write futures contracts against them because there's no Bitcoins to write futures contracts against. And no one wants to take on the leverage. That's a good bullish setup. How long will this take for the bullish setup to resolve itself? Oh, God, no, who knows? I don't know. Just waiting for the breakout. But right now, Bitcoin's putting in a really strong base between 18 and 22. Doesn't mean it won't go to 11 in a monetary spasm. We have a complete seizure of markets. Possible that people will have to disgorge their Bitcoin. For the most part, every weak hand that sold Bitcoin in the rundown from $68,000, I think they've sold. And now the miners are fighting like dogs to get what's coming. The pittance of Bitcoins that are being printed every day.
Well, the thing about the mining that kind of piqued my interest was energy prices around the world are skyrocketing. So the everyday people trying to mine Bitcoin, all of a sudden their electricity prices are up, 500, 600, 700% in Europe?
Well, in Europe, yeah, but is anybody mining in Europe? No, they're mining in the United States. They're mining in China. They're mining in Russia. They're mining in Iran, where, what they're paying for energy in Iran and China and Iran and Russia? Nothing. Like they're paying the energy prices there are nothing. They're paying 3 cents a kilowatt hour. I'm paying 12 or 14 now. And even that is cheap compared to Europe. So go ahead.
That was just something that kind of, I don't know, it was a thought I entertained for a second. I wouldn't be surprised if someone maybe in Russia or maybe the US is, saying, hey, let's plug in a shit ton of fucking miners. The geopolitical world is wild. Let's mine some Bitcoin.
What I've noticed is, and we and Dexter and I both talked about this, I think about 2 years ago, we realized that before even China banned Bitcoin mining for the, 12th time or whatever, no, the big one that shifted everything, that all the mining was coming here to the United States. You could see it in the IPOs, you could see it in the SPACs, you could see it, you could see it when we went to Bitcoin 2021 in, June of last year, right? That, all of these mining companies were springing up because relatively speaking, the United States and I think the banking sector here in the United States they're responding to incentives. You've got a lot of big money has moved into Bitcoin, and they want control over the value of that Bitcoin, and they're going to do that by having control over the mining, by having control over the hash rate. Because let me put it to you this way: I own a lot of Bitcoin. I'm a client for JP Morgan. No, Jamie Dimon hates Bitcoin, but it doesn't matter. He still custodians Bitcoin for clients that want it, right? He may hate Russian stocks, but he's still the only his company's still the only U.S. custodian for Russian stocks in the world for U.S. customers that are still allowed to own Russian stocks in some way, be it in offshore accounts or whatever. If you were a family office holding 1,000 Bitcoins in a cold wallet somewhere, do you really want 65% of the hash rate in China? No, that has to repatriate. I'll make the Bitcoin maxis happy. I see a day when the Federal Reserve wants the price of gold to rise and they put Bitcoin on their balance sheet.
Bingo. I honestly think if I love to speculate, and I actually think the United States is positioned very, very well, or not positioned well. I think they're going to actually have to adopt Bitcoin or back the dollar by necessity, because I look at the BRICS nations, China, Russia. I think they're all going to maybe try a gold-backed currency. I
They're
don't
also
see
going to
Europe.
there's also going to be some crypto in there as well. Certainly the Russians at this point. The Russians and the Iranians at this point are both, it's clear that they have to be able to evade sanctions in the old SWIFT system in order to get that. And look, don't kid yourself. Ripple is not a solution around that, because Ripple is also effectively centralized in that respect. They can. I want somebody to make a good argument to me that the sanctions policy can't be implemented through Ripple. I may be wrong about that, but my instincts tell me no. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that would be a good thing, because I see the WEF in there desperately wanting to control Ripple. They're absolutely behind, they're absolutely in cahoots with the U.S. Treasury and everybody else in order to sanction the hell out of the Russians. Remember, Powell was not happy with the sanctions. That was one thing that nobody wants to remember. Powell was like, nobody consulted me about these sanctions and what they were going to do. Yellen did that on her own. So
it's another thing that just makes your eyebrows raise. And just maybe the last point I wanted to raise as well. When you're talking about it makes sense that the United States wants to control the hash power. Something that I'm watching really closely is all of these stablecoin companies. So you got USDC, $50 billion market cap, Tether, $70-ish billion market cap. I'm watching all of them back themselves with US Treasuries and US debt. And I think that's really, really interesting. So USDC is 100% backed by debt. And Tether has historically been known for holding all sorts of risky commercial paper. And
sure.
But over the past 6 months, Tether's come out and they're doing monthly attestations. They're selling their commercial paper and they're buying more and more US Treasury debt. So and MakerDAO as well. There's this shitcoin, stablecoin that runs on top of Ethereum. Even they're buying US Treasuries.
Even they're buying US Treasuries. Yeah, I know.
And if you guys want to know what happens next with Tether and all of the US dollar stablecoins that are backing themselves with US government debt, I highly encourage you to check out this full interview that I recently had with Tom Luongo over on the Bitcoin Made Simple YouTube channel, which is my main channel where all of my longer form content gets posted. The plan for this channel over here on the Fix the Money, Fix the World channel is I'm just going to kind of post clips and highlights of the longer form content that I'm making. So if that sounds like a good idea to you guys, let me know in the comments down below, or let me know if you want me to also post the longer form content over on here. But I really hope this video gave you some sort of value. If it did, feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really does help push this content in the eyes of more people. And of course, you can get yourself $10 of free Bitcoin with the link in the description of today's video. Amber is sponsoring this podcast. They're a great Bitcoin only company and they've just rolled out to 62 countries, and to celebrate, they're giving all of my listeners $10 of free Bitcoin. So check out Amber in the link down below. If the recent FTX exchange debacle hasn't shown you anything, it's that you should not trust these centralized shitcoin casinos, whether it's FTX, Binance, Coinbase, BlockFi, Celsius. You should not trust an exchange that is also selling altcoins, because that typically means that they're not selling you real Bitcoin on the exchange. So you should only trust Bitcoin only exchanges. So check Amber out. And until the next video, guys, I hope you guys have a good day.